Attitudes and persuasive communication. The power of attitudes. An attitude is a lasting, general evaluation of people, including oneself, object, advancement, or issues. Utilitarian function relates to the basic principles of reward and punishment. Value express function relates attitudes that perform a value express. Function relates to the consumer self-concept of central values. Ego defensive function is attitudes we form to protect ourselves either from external threats or internal feelings perform. Knowledge function is we form some attitudes because we need other structure or meaning. ABC model of attitudes. Affect describes how a consumer feels about an attitude object. Behavior refers to the action he or she takes toward the object or in some cases at least his or her intention to take action about it. Conviction is what he or she believes to be true about the attitude's object. How we do form attitudes complaints works at the lowest level of informant complaints. We form an attitude because it helps us to gain rewards or avoid punishment. Identification occurs when we form an attitude to conform to another person or group expectation. Internalization at a high level of involvement we call internalization. The set attitudes become part of our value system. Principle of cognitive consistency. According to the principle of cognitive consistency, we value harmony among our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and a need to maintain uniformity among these elements motivate us. This desire means that, if necessary, we change our thoughts, feelings, or behavior to make them consistent with other experience. The theory focuses on situations in which two cognitive elements clash. A cognitive element is something a person believes about himself or herself, a behavior he or she performs, or an observation about his or her surroundings. In other words, we are more likely to observe these designs high informant situations where there is more pressure to reduce inconsistency. Self-perception theory. Self-perception theory provides an alternative explanation of dissonation effects. It assumes that we observe our own behavior to determine just what our attitudes are, much as we assume the we know what another person's attitude is when we watch what he does. Self-perception theory helps to explain the effectiveness of a strategy salespeople call the foot in the door technique. The know that consumers are more likely to comply with a big request if they agree to a smaller one first. Social judgment theory. Social judgment theory also assumes that people assimilate new information about attitude objects in light of what they already know of or feel. One important aspect of the theory is that people differ in terms of the information they will find acceptable or unacceptable. The four latitudes of acceptance and rejection around an attitude standard. The will consider and evaluate idea falling within the latitude favorably, but they are more likely to reject out of hand thoughts that fall outside of this chunk. People tend to perceive messages within their latitude of acceptance as more consistent with their position that those messages actually are. We call this exaggeration and assimilation effect. Balance theory. Balance theory considers how people perceive relations among different attitude objects and how they alter their attitudes so that they remain consistent 10. A balance theory perceptive involves relation always from the perceived subjective point of view. Among three elements, each trait contains a person and his or her perception of an attitude object and some other person or object. We link elements together in one of two ways. They can have either a unit relation where we think that a person is somehow connected to an attitude object, something like a belief, or they can have a sentiment relation where a person expresses liking or disliking for an attitude object.